this section, we're going to cover the basic process of how to find the right candidates for your new job. You have your job description in hand and are ready to start looking for the right person. How do you go about finding the perfect candidate to join your company? Sometimes you already have somebody in mind, maybe a friend or someone you worked with in a previous position. Even if you don't have someone in mind already, it is common to first try to recruit the new employee on your own through family, friends, or social networks. If you choose to self-recruit, consider the future consequences if the new employee doesn't work out. The relative ease of hiring a friend or family member might not outweigh the potential for damaged relationships in the future. Sometimes to find highly qualified, diverse candidates, you need to cast a wider net. Post your job description on sites like Indeed, Monster, or LinkedIn. There are many different options, and each has its own cost structure. One way that might help you determine which site or sites to post your job to is try a quick search as someone looking for a job like yours. For example, if you are looking to hire someone in sales, search sales jobs and see which sites are at the top of the results. These are likely to be the first sites potential candidates see as well. You can also go to employment agencies to find workers. Some will allow you to essentially rent workers with the option to hire full-time later. This can be an easy way to get started or just find somebody temporarily or some part-time help. And while they're not employment agencies, you might also consider sending your job opening to different college or university career centers. After you have identified qualified applicants, it is time for interviews. Go into interviews prepared for that specific candidate. Before the interviews, go through the candidate's work history to make sure they're qualified, and see if you have any specific questions about what they submitted. Asking the right questions in an interview is essential. Use a set guide and structure for each interview. If you ask each candidate different questions, it becomes very hard to compare answers later. There are several resources available online with some typical interview questions. You should also include some questions specific to the job responsibilities. Softer questions get to the heart of how the candidate might interact with the rest of your staff and your customers. How do they approach problem solving? What's a specific sample of how they've solved a problem in the past? How good are they under pressure? If a client is dissatisfied or angry, how would they handle that situation? It's always a good idea to get at least a couple people to interview the candidate. Each person who works in your company will be approaching the interview from a different perspective, and having those multiple perspectives helps balance out the overall assessment. Some larger companies have interview panels, where each person is tasked with focusing on a certain area of the interview with a candidate. One person focuses on teamwork, for example, while another one focuses on more technical skills of the job. An added benefit of this approach is that it makes your current employees part of the decision-making process, and they are, after all, the ones who will eventually be working with this person. Solid hiring decisions are key to the success of any business. And when you bring on good people, running your business will become even more fun. Here are a few example interview questions. How would you make a meaningful contribution to this business? What motivates you? In what types of work environments do you thrive the most? What types of work environments hamper you down? Who was the best manager you've ever had, and why? Once you've chosen a candidate for the role and made an offer, you might want to run a background check. Also known as pre-employment screening, a background check is an important step to keep your business, employees, and customers safe. Applicants must always authorize your business to run a background check. Be aware that there are some complex legal requirements and restrictions on the use of background checks, many of which vary by state. Some states restrict the types of criminal history inquiries you can pull, and when in the application process you can inquire about criminal history. Others require that a role meet specific requirements if you're going to pull a credit history. To comply with all these requirements, businesses usually use a third-party agency to conduct background checks. There are also regulations on how you can use the information from a background check. For specific guidance or advice on background checks, I highly recommend you consult with a legal professional.